Hello, everybody. Welcome to Channel Islands National Park.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Dan Ashe. I'm the director of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service, and it's a joy and an honor, a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. Just back from Santa Cruz Island, courtesy of the National Park Service and the Nature Conservancy. We had a great day. I don't know who's responsible for the weather, but it's outstanding. And we had the opportunity to see an island fox up close this morning, and no matter how many times you see, an animal being released into the wild, it's an amazing sight. And that of course was one that was captured, and we got to see a little bit of the kind of workup of the animal and what they do to check on the health of the island fox, and then saw it hop back into the underbrush. So that's always makes for a good day. I want to say thank you to my friend and colleague John Jarvis and the National Park Service, and to the Nature Conservancy for making this whole endeavor possible. I mean, we talk a lot about partnership. We do a lot of partnership, but this effort with the Channel Island fox is really an exemplary example of how we can do conservation, do it better, and do it faster. And on that note, the fastest mammal ever to be recovered under the Endangered Species Act, listed in 2004. And it's an honor to be able to be here today and to announce that the island fox, 3 species of island fox, are being removed from the Endangered Species List. And so many people obviously deserve credit for this, but the rapid recovery, I think, is really spectacular, and I think that tells us a lot, certainly about the partnership here, but about the way we can make conservation better in the future. And I think this example will help us repeat this kind of success many, many times into the future. And we're learning how to do that better, because not only is this the fastest mammal ever to be recovered, but these 3 species will be 19 species that have been delisted due to recovery during the Obama administration, more species than all previous administrations combined. And so we're certainly proud of that record, but we also acknowledge that we're reaping the benefit of years and decades of work that has gone before, like here with the island fox, but also that by targeting our investment, by focusing on partnership, that we can speed recovery. And so we're seeing the Endangered Species Act, we're seeing success under the Endangered Species Act coming faster and faster now, because we're learning how to do it better. And better means with more enduring partnership. And that certainly is what's reflected here today. I think of a few other people will speak about the island fox, but seeing it today, hearing the story of island ecosystem out of balance, non-native pigs and other ungulates disrupting the ecological balance on the island, the influx of golden eagle, and the effort to put that back in balance with the leadership of the Park Service and the Nature Conservancy and others, I think is not only extraordinary, it's inspirational to those of us in this line of work. I think what I'd like to do is take a moment to recognize some of the real heroes in this effort. And if you think about the record, we now have 700 foxes on San Miguel, 1,200 on Santa Rosa, 2,100 on Santa Cruz, from as few as 15 or 100 just a little more than a decade ago. And in 2016, we acknowledged 8 key individuals as recovery champions for the Fish and Wildlife Service. And I think most, if not all, of those people are here today. And I'd like to ask them again to stand, and we can give them all a collective round of applause. David Garcelon with the Institute for Wildlife Studies, with the Nature Conservancy, Lotus Vermeer, Christina Boser, Eamon O'Byrne, Scott Morrison, and with the Channel Islands National Park, Tim Coonan, Kate Faulkner, and Russell Gallipo. Let's give them all a rich round of applause. And a number of Fish and Wildlife Service folks who have made this possible. Also, Robert McMorrin, Kat Darst, Eric Morissette. Hey, Eric. And Bridget Fahey. There's Bridget. There you go. Let's give them a round of applause. So it's a proud moment for the United States Fish and Wildlife Service to be here, the agency, the principal agency responsible for implementing the Endangered Species Act. But I do, again, want to emphasize that we cannot do this job by ourselves. It takes extraordinary partners, people of vision and commitment. And it's a pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, National Park Service John Jarvis, National Park Service Director John Jarvis, to speak about the Park Service and their role in this effort.
Thanks. Well, thanks, Dan, and thanks everybody for taking a little moment to celebrate an extraordinary success. There are probably a lot of folks in this room that have the battle scars of this effort. While we can call it the fastest recovery for a mammal, it still took a long time. And I came on as the regional director of the Pacific West here in California in 2002. And at that time, of course, the fox was in trouble, and there's a lot of issues associated with the islands. And asked Russell Gallipo to give up a great job over as the chief of resources at Yosemite and come on as the superintendent here in 2003, really with the mission to work collaboratively with incredible organizations like the Nature Conservancy, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Congresswoman Capps, and many others, to really restore the islands and recover the fox. And this story is a classic. I mean, it's got politics and media all over the map on this. It's got fascinating personalities, exotic animals, lawsuits, science. It's all there. A great story, great book someday. But I think sometimes we don't step back and celebrate our successes. So this is great. Thank you for actually organizing this so that we can celebrate our successes, because sometimes we're ready to just move on to the next battle. And occasionally we need to take a little bit of time and be proud of what has been accomplished here. The fox doesn't know it, but we know it, what it takes. And it really is also the perfect example of a public-private approach. And there's no way we could have done this alone. Park Service could not have accomplished this by themselves, nor the Fish and Wildlife Service, nor TNC. It's been how we all brought our strengths together, built trust, communications, and ultimately the recovery of this extraordinarily beautiful little animal. So thank you to everyone here. A couple of folks, Tim Coonan, Kate Faulkner, who could not be here, Lotus, just real strong individuals that have been here from the very beginning and fought this all the way through. As some of you know, this is our centennial year. We got really nice bling associated with it. So I think it's also a great time to celebrate our parks and public lands, to say that this is something that we created as a nation, and we should be very proud of that. And as we go into our second century, we should recognize that when we work together across all political and different lines, we can do extraordinary things as a nation in conservation. So thank you. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, John. And just coming back on the boat ride, looking back on Santa Cruz Island, I was talking with Congresswoman Capps and saying it does, when you see places like that have been protected, it does make you proud to be American and proud of a country that values the protection of great places like that. So extraordinary moment. And I do want to extend, a personal thanks to John. John is the one who, time is valuable and we're all busy. And down in the garage of the Interior Department one morning, John Jarvis said, Dan, we're gonna delist the island fox, and you and I ought to go and do it together. So thank you, John, for making us both take a moment. So next, again, speaking of partner, again, the Nature Conservancy, just a key foundation in the conservation of this fox. And as I said, out on the island, the Nature Conservancy, just a legacy partner for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing, it seems like we are joined at the hip with the Nature Conservancy. Just do extraordinary work and extraordinary professional organization. And here to represent them today is Scott Morrison, Director of Science for the Nature Conservancy. Scott.
Hi. So I certainly don't need to tell this crowd that a whole lot of people worked a lot of long days over a lot of years to make this day possible. And today we get to celebrate what all that partnership and all that focus was able to produce. And that is, we're providing evidence that the Endangered Species Act works and that we can in fact protect the extraordinary diversity of life that shares this planet with us. Now, back, say 20 years ago or so, if you were to have gone out to Santa Cruz Island like we did this morning, you would have experienced a very different island. You would have seen the damage caused by feral pigs pretty much everywhere you looked. And you probably would not have seen an island fox unless you saw one in the protective shelter of our captive breeding facilities on the island. Now here we are today. The pigs are gone. There's bald eagles flying around the island. And you don't have to wait very long before an island fox is going to cross your path, which is a really tremendous turnaround. When you think of what we had to do in order to get that turnaround, to save those foxes of Channel Islands National Park, it really required pulling those island ecosystems back from the brink of ecological collapse and bringing them back into an ecological balance. And to do that required undertaking multiple major restoration initiatives pretty much all at the same time. And so as was mentioned, we had to remove the invasive animals. We had to figure out how to captively breed these foxes. We had to think about how to bring back bald eagles, a lot of stuff. And foundational to all of that was innovative and cutting edge science, because there was just so much that we had to figure out. We had to figure out how would you model these populations so that you could figure out what sort of management interventions would lead to the reduction of extinction risk. We had to figure out how you would reduce the risk of an epidemic of a catastrophic disease, like what hit the foxes so hard on Catalina. We had to figure out how would you safely live capture golden eagles that did not want to be caught and that knew you were trying to catch them. And we had to figure out how would you design an eradication of feral pigs that would be as efficient as it needed to be in order to remove that threat to the whole island ecosystem. So we worked on all that. we collectively worked on all that. And now on the other side of all of that, we have all that collective experience and that applied science, and it is out there published, and it is informing and inspiring conservation far beyond just those islands, which is a tremendous additional legacy of this project. What I think about when I think about what this project is all about and what is the most important part of it, it's that it's a reminder of what can happen when a group of people come together and just decide that they are not going to let a species go extinct on their watch. Because that's what happened. And those people got to work and they produced an extraordinary outcome. And so for everybody that was involved in this project, if you're a collaborator, a supporter, a cheerleader, thank you and congratulations on a job very well done.
Thank you very much, Scott. So, yes, the Endangered Species Act does work, and I believe that we're making it work better through efforts like we have seen and are seeing here with the island fox. It works best when it is powered by committed and dedicated and professional people, and that's certainly what you see here. It works when it has the resources to drive it. And so I've had several reporters ask me today, well, what's the key to building on this success? And it's like, well, we need the resources. I think what this demonstrates is that when creative and dedicated people have the resources to do their jobs, they do their jobs and they do them well. And so having the resources to apply to this task is increasingly important in today's world. And we need far-sighted and energetic people in Congress to help us do that. Congresswoman Lois Capps joined us on the trip out to the island today, and she has joined us for now nearly 9 terms in Congress in supporting this law and supporting the people who do the work that we are celebrating today. So it's a privilege to introduce your Congresswoman, Lois Capps.
Well, just a little caveat. I know I share the privilege of representing Channel Islands in its entirety with your Ventura's Congresswoman Julia Brownlee, so we share this value too. But those of us who did have the privilege of traveling over to the island this morning and just happened on a frequent occurrence, which would be the health check for one of the island foxes. So we could observe that and see the little sweetheart, I want to call him, up a bit closer, and then watch it be checked over and then released, and it scampered away very quickly back to its natural habitat. And I still have goosebumps. I'm going to have them for a long time. It's not just that piece of the animal, it's all the flora and fauna around it, which were part of which is the habitat that had been tried to be domesticated by former land users. And now we have seen so much progress. And then to walk in here and be sitting with a group of people, and I want to acknowledge you, so I'd like you to stand. Friends of the Island Fox. I saw a couple of t-shirts, so I know you're here. It takes that grassroots support level. And I want to acknowledge Rich Block, because I recognize you, Rich, from the Santa Barbara Zoo. You came down to help us celebrate. You have a lot to celebrate too, because you were part of the recovery process there. So there's so many players. Of course, there's Director Dan Ashe of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There's Director John Jarvis of National Park Service. And there's the Nature Conservancy. You know, again, that's been mentioned already, the partnership, Scott Morrison, the director there, putting together not only grassroots support, but the nonprofit world, or private sector, if you will, along with the designated public agencies that we hold responsible. But it is this whole circle of friends, and so that that small island fox out there today has no idea how many friends he has on the mainland. And when I see and when I think of this experience today, I'll just always have a smile on my face because of what has been accomplished in record time. And of course, we know there were some circumstances that perhaps made that possible, but it happened nonetheless. And it's a lot of hard work and dedication. Sometimes, and I'll take the responsibility here for within a political climate that's not always supportive, that questions the foundations of the Endangered Species Act, for example, and doesn't always fund to the level that is really required in order to do the work that we want to do. So these are many dangers that still face our area in terms of the whales on the Santa Barbara Channel, the California condors on the Central Coast. We have our actions as human beings, and part of this really do affect the wider world around us. So it highlights as well for me that there's plenty of room for optimism today, especially with the kind of groups that we have gathered here today and who you represent, that we can continue to support wildlife in our region, urbanization creeping in as it does. But we've reached a point that we want to celebrate, but we also want to dedicate ourselves to continuing this kind of work. It's not the last challenge we're going to face. It's a wonderful story today, but we will see future needs, and there are some already, as I've mentioned. But it's a day to say thank you, and that's my purpose for being here, and just to celebrate with you again, a real highlight, not only of my time to serve in Congress, but I think all of our lives here for what we really value and the life that we are able to enjoy on the Central Coast of California. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Capps, and that's a great way to end, is on that note of optimism, because I think what today tells us is that we have the right to be optimistic, that we can make a difference in our world, and that little fox is telling us a story about that we have the right and we have the need to be optimistic about the future. So I want to thank everybody who's made today possible. Are we going to take questions at this point, or no? All right. Now we're going to have lunch. So there we go. All right. So thank you all for being here with us.